Cool. Hey, everybody. This is Tyler Cartwright. I am signing in with the first of our episodes of the Fundamentally Different Show. I have one of our wonderful people from our community at Keto Gains and one of my favorite people in the world, Patty Garcia, with me on this call. Hey, Patty, how are you?
Hi. For the record, you are also one of my favorite people, so the feeling is mutual.
That's just because you don't know me well enough yet. It's okay. No good
So
deal.
yeah, I'm actually doing excellent. I think this is one of the phases of my life that I'm enjoying the most because I am painfully aware of everything that's surrounding me and how absolutely lucky I am to be where I'm at today. And so, do you remember the saying, the good old days? And you
Mm-hmm.
always think of like, oh, I wish I had known that I was living something amazing at that time. I am aware that I am living like my best life right now. So I
That's
am
awesome
enjoying
stuff.
every little single thing. And it's a beautiful thing because people see me and they're like, this weirdo, like what's the big deal? And it is a
That's
big
okay.
deal.
They look at me and call me a weirdo too, so it's okay.
Yeah, and like mostly because I am living in New Mexico, and so I used to live in California, right? So that the people in New Mexico, of course, they're going to kind of like see me as different.
Mm-hmm.
And I am different, but in so many ways, not just because I'm from California, but I am I'm not like the your normal gal. It's just like I
Sure.
am I am not normal, which I embrace that. And it's different when you like feel different and you're
Mm-hmm.
like trying to hide things that are different from other people, because it's not the norm. And so maybe feelings you don't want to feel rejected or that people are going to um treat you differently, because you're not like them. I embrace that. I embrace what makes me different and what makes me me. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful phase of my life that I'm living right now.
Well, the world is definitely better because you embrace who you are. And let's talk a little bit about that. So I know a lot more about you than I probably will know about most of the other guests that come on this show because we've been friends for a while and we've hung out together and you've been a part of the team over in our Keto Gains business for a good while. For people that don't know you, if you would, maybe kind of take us through growing up, where you're from, backstory, just kind of paint us a picture. And I'll be clear, I'd love to keep these around an hour, but the truth of the matter is I'd much rather the story get out there. So wherever you want to go, take your time with it, make it short, tell me to shut up, whatever you need me to do. But let's find out who Patty is.
So the funny thing about me is that I'm the sixth child in a family of eight, and I am the only kid that was born in the United States. So
Mm-hmm.
that makes me pretty unique from the get go because
Mm-hmm.
my mom tried to live in Los Angeles, and then she got there when she was pregnant, and then she had me, but she didn't like it, and so she went back. And so out of all the kids, I was the only one born here. So I was days old when she brought me back, and she brought me back to Mexico. So I was raised as Mexican. And so I'm like my whole life I thought I was Mexican. I didn't know any different. And so I grew up as Mexican. And so um when I was pregnant, um one of my husband's family from Los Angeles came for Christmas. And so I was like, I always wanted to go to the United States with my aunt, which she would go shopping. And so I was like, how can I get my papers? Because like I want to go to El Otro Lado. We used to, the other side.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's like, oh no, you know
Patty's
what?
been helping me with my Spanish, for those of you that don't know, so she's poking a little fun at me here because my Spanish is not wonderful. But either ways, okay. So when did you get your papers? When did they come to the States?
And he said, oh, you know what? It's really hard, to get papers right now. And so I was like, oh, okay, okay. It's because I was born over there. And so I just wanted to like get something so I don't have to get my passport because the visa is really hard
Hmm.
to get because you have to show money that you have money coming in, right? And I wasn't working. So he was like, what? You were born over there? And I was like, yeah. And so I showed my birth certificate. And he was like, dude, like you should go have your baby over there and get welfare, so like every month you will get money. And I was like, oh, I was not interested at all because I was like, what am I gonna do in another country, with my baby? Like, no, my baby's gonna
All
be
the
born
family
here.
is back, would still be back in Mexico.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and my mom, she was a nurse at the hospital that I was going to give birth to my baby, right? So I was like, no, my mom's gonna be there with me, yeah. So my
Hmm.
husband, which I was very submissive, right? So my husband got there from work and they told him, oh, all he saw was like $500 a month every month, you know. And
Hmm.
so of course we were poor, but like to me I was like, what, like no. But he sent me, and it was very very traumatic, because it was December 25th, and our Christmas is on the 24th at night, right? So I had met him, his uncle. I had met him the night before, and so he basically sent me on the 26th with a stranger to a strange country where you don't speak English, pregnant. So I felt like I was being kidnapped. It was very traumatic because I cried the whole time, the whole way there. And like not only that, but I'm a smart person, right? So like I was trying to remember, like when you kidnap, when you're trying to hear things, like if you go, like you're trying to remember things, like signs that to know
Hmm.
where you are. So imagine from San Diego to LA, I was memorizing every single exit, and so I was like, okay, because I didn't know when we were going to stop. So like the last
Hmm.
exit that I had memorized that, and then the next one I memorized that, and then the next one, it's because I didn't know where we were going.
Hmm.
And so I was like crying the whole time. And when we got there, it's funny because I still remember the sign out of the freeway, and when we get there, um, they were nice, but um, the lady, like his wife, now we know that she's mentally ill, but at the time we didn't know. And so she was threatened by me because her husband will take me to the Social Security Administration or the DMV to do my all my paperwork, right? And so she actually was sick, and I was making her soup. I was cleaning her house. I was like 8 months pregnant, so like I was. It was ridiculous. But she got jealous, and she said that I was sleeping with her husband, and and so I was like, how? you know?
I can't even see my toes, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So it was really hard. So I was like, So she yelled at me that I was doing this with her husband, and I was like, from like
Mm.
basically a ranch. I wouldn't speak English. I didn't know what she was saying. Half the time she was just screaming at me, and so like it was really hard. And so her daughter-in-law, um, and her son, they were like, you know what? We rent this room. She's gonna stay with us. So leave her alone.
Mm.
And so I was like basically trapped in a room, and I was scared to even go to the restroom, because she was gonna see me, and so like I was wanting to
Mhm.
avoid her at all times. I was scared the whole time that she was gonna, I don't know, hit me or something. But then her daughter-in-law took me to her mom's house, which was 2 blocks away, and so that family took me in, and the kid, which he was a teenager, he gave up his room for me. Um, so every night, I was kind of like the maid because I wanted to, right? Because like these people are. letting me stay here, and so this is how I'm going to pay them. So like I will, they were like kind of like hoarders, but not in a dirty way, but in like when you accumulate a lot of stuff, there were like a lot of newspaper on the table, so they didn't have a place to eat. So I took care of all that, and now they had a dining room. So little by little, I will clean a room, and I will clean his room, and so they were very happy with me. And she would come home, at 6:30, and dinner was ready for everybody, and stuff like that. So that made me really happy. They treated me really nicely. They did a baby shower for me, for me and my baby. And finally, when I had my baby, it was so scary because the first appointment that I went, they sent me to the hospital because I was like, "Oh, you're already having contractions, so like go to the hospital." And so I had my baby, and I was like, it was so scary because it was cold. It was March 1st, and so I was so cold, and then I was scared, because nobody spoke Spanish. So it was just scary. And then I was so cold that I couldn't push it, and they were like, push, push, and I was like, ugh. And so like I told the girl that was with me, I was like, I'm so cold. And then they put a warm blanket that they have in drawers, and they covered me. I was so warm, and I was like, baby out. And then so I came back from the hospital, and then my husband had gotten here because he got the passport in all those months that I was there. And so we started our lives there. We got an apartment, and I got pregnant with my other baby. And so the beginning of me being here, it was very traumatic because like I didn't know. I was with strangers in a strange country that spoke a strange language to me. And so, but the charity of people. And when my baby came, like the baby shower that they had, it was amazing, like, because like they were all neighbors and they just brought me things. And I was like, I don't know any of these people. So like, it was pretty amazing. And, and so I.
So let me ask you a
Mhm.
question. So within that community, was it largely Latino in terms of the people that were
Yes,
making those donations and helping? Or,
it
okay,
was Maywood, California, so that's basically Mexican community, like maybe like I'm gonna say 95%. And so yeah, it was very um, everybody spoke Spanish, so like I felt kind of like a home, and so it was I felt embraced, like as opposed to like the first experience that I had with that other crazy lady. Um, and because
not being stabbed will make you feel a lot more at home than worrying about going to the restroom at night, right?
right, and then when you're pregnant, you can hold it. It was just so
Hmm.
weird. Um, but after that, I. I got used to living here, and then my mom passed away, and that was also traumatic because I was the last one to talk to her, and I was very close to her. We would talk all the time, and our last conversation was about making flour tortillas because I was like, Ma, I don't know why they don't come out right. So like, she was like, okay, so next time, take the flour from here, and then okay, so I will bring the flour because I will go often, and it didn't work. And then okay, so take the water from here, and like we were trying different things. So that night, I remember she's like, you know what? I'm gonna pre-cook them for you, and I'm gonna put them in wax paper. I'm gonna put them in the freezer, and then you take them because I was pregnant. Of course, I wanted flour tortillas.
Hmm. To be fair, I'm not pregnant and I want flour tortillas. So like, let's just be clear. Like,
Like homemade
good
flour
homemade flour
tortillas, they're
tortilla.
like at
Oh
a
my gosh.
different level. And
Yeah, for
so
sure.
that was our last conversation. So like flour tortillas have like a very deep meaning for me because like that was our connection, my mother and I, because she would make flour tortillas every single night. It's not like, oh, maybe I'll do tortillas today. No, it was every night that she would make, and I would be there with her making them or tossing them, or doing the beans or whatever. I grew up with my mom's on my mom's side on the kitchen. Like that's where I grew up. Like I
Hmm.
remember more her legs than I remember her face. You know, when I was little, that like that's what I
I
remember.
have that same memory of my mama. Yeah, from my mother's mother. I remember holding onto a leg
Yes.
or looking up at her from the
Yeah,
floor.
and
Yeah,
then I
it's
remember the stove since I was little, the buttons, because that was like eye level, you know. So then
hmm
after that, we moved to another place, and um, one day my husband, he was just want nothing to do with the kids, right? So um,
hmm
one day it was his day off, and so he was playing Nintendo, and my son wanted to play with him. He was a year old, and he gave him a remote a controller. But the kids know that it's not connected. You know, they're smart like that. And so my son was like, "Nah, this is not working or whatever," you know. And I was in the room, and then I remember vividly. It's just one of those memories that you can erase, right? So I was in my bed and I was wearing my headphones, and I was like, I'm gonna leave him so he spends times with his kids, you know, because he was always working. And then I see my son flying in, and so I was like, am I dreaming? Because like it was like, why would my son fly in from and then my daughter after, you know.
hmm
And so I was like, what's happening? And so he was like, oh, they don't let me play, you know. And I was like, at that moment I was like, he's gonna hit them. And so I can't allow that. If he doesn't like spending time with them, they're when they're cute right now, right? And he's treating them like that.
Imagine when they're teenagers
So
and
like
they're
I felt that it was my duty as a mom to get my kids out of there,
hmm
you know. So then I started
sure.
planning my exit, and I got a job in a bakery, and I started saving money. It was hard because he would take my paycheck and give me some of that, you know, but he would keep most of it for bills or whatever. And so like what I did is that they told me about income tax, and he didn't know about income tax. Um,
hmm
so I got my check, and it was like almost $5,000. So I was like, this is it. So I got an apartment. I bought myself a car, and I got old. It was one of those 7.99 old house furniture, you know. So
hmm
it had the two seats for the living room, you know, and then it had the table and it had the
hmm
bed, and so I bought the whole set for like $800. And so I I got this little apartment, and I moved in with my kids and I left them. It's funny because like the people at the bakery were waiting for him to leave, and so they were waiting outside, and he will work from 5 p.m. right. So he will leave, and they're all waiting, and then they all came at the same time, and we took everything out, you know,
hmm
and I just left him like his
That's
his
awesome.
his clothes and like towels and stuff like that. I was bye. And so
So I'm curious about something really, really quickly here, just to interject. Were you still only speaking Spanish at this time, or were you learning English, or were you fluent with English at this point
um
in your time in the
no,
States?
I was at that point I was more focused on work and on my kids.
hmm
But once I was working, um I tried to get into a school, but I was working two jobs. I was a cake decorator at 5 a.m. and a Domino's Pizza at 5 p.m. So I only had like a few hours
hmm
to see my kids. I would actually visit them at the babysitter's house, you know? So, like, if I had two evenings during the week to see them, I'm not going to spend that time at school. So,
Totally understand. Yeah, I was just trying to kind of
right.
put some
So,
timestamps with things so that people can understand. Because I can't imagine. It definitely creates a challenge. You don't understand income taxes. You've just got the husband that you're concerned is about to become abusive toward your children, and you don't speak the language of 90 plus percent of the population in a country where you're working and doing service. And that's, I know when I travel to Mexico and I travel to other countries that speak different languages, it's so challenging for me because I want to be respectful of the
right.
language. But at the same time, I'm terrible. Like I'm so gringofied, I can only really speak English well. And so I go there And it's just, it feels so overwhelming. Simple things that you think like, where's the restroom? How you can I get some extra sauce or meat or whatever? Like, by the time the end of the day happens, and I don't want to catch up, but I want to say this: you're just emotionally and sort of spiritually exhausted from trying to point and grunt and explain and justify and gesticulate and kind of
Mm-hmm.
explain what you're looking for with broken language and compassionate people on the other side of the conversation who are willing to sit there and not just throw their hands up and walk away, right? So for anybody that listens to this, understand that this is kind of the situation that Patty's in. Two jobs, leaving a really unpleasant situation that had been really unpleasant and really dangerous, quite frankly, for a while. Speaking only Spanish in the United States and having to almost visit her own children
Right.
just because she was having to work so much as just to pay bills and keep the lights on and do what you needed to do, right?
So what happened is that um, I, the owner of the bakery, he was really great to me because like
Mm-hmm.
I've always been a hard worker. I'm a workhorse, right? So the guy, he told me, if you want to learn English, you need to turn off all Spanish music. Everything that you do in Spanish, do it in English. So don't listen to music in Spanish. Don't watch TV in Spanish, and turn on the closed caption. And so that's exactly what I did. So that's how I learned English. So until to
Mm-hmm.
this day, I still watch Netflix or whatever with captions because I'm making the connection. My brain is making the connection of um, the sounds that I'm hearing to how it's written. So like because of this reason, plus like I know that I'm really smart, and I was really good at spelling and grammar in Spanish. So I think I already had that kind of like smart thing about language, right? But I just didn't know
Mm-hmm.
how to speak it. So that's what I did. I would just listen to the radio in English and watch TV in English. Till this day, like when I was in LA, because I don't have TV here, but um, the Spanish channels that were not programmed onto my TV. So like not even by mistake. Like if I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
watch like the World Soccer Cup, I would like put the 34, or like 52, because like
Mm-hmm.
I was doing it intentionally. But since that day, I haven't listened to. I mean, watch Spanish channel. I don't. And so and even and now you can tell because I I am really good at not only spelling and grammar, but I can explain my speech, which is not easy to write something and to tell a story with words. Because a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people that they were born here, they speak English and they went to school, they write something that doesn't make any sense, you know? So,
Hey, now Spanish has some of that too. Let's be fair
no, I
to
mean,
the
yes.
idiot with the
But
beard
the
here
thing is
who's
that
trying to
I can
learn.
correct. So like I'm the Keto Games online editor, right? So like I can do that in English and Spanish,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's not easy. It's not only that she
Yes.
learn English, but I'm on
Yeah.
another level when it comes to the English. Maybe not with my accent because I
Yeah.
have a thick
Like
accent.
the No, that's not like, but like the metaphor, right? Like the expressions and the colloquial sort of. Luis always makes fun of me because I always mess the expression up. It's like the dog dances to the sound of money or whatever, and I always butcher the expression, so he pokes fun at me. But like, ultimately, like that's kind of the thing. Like these little expressions that we use that don't actually translate to mean what they mean, and so understanding the little euphemisms or the little colloquial things is kind of that next level of English. But so, kind of circling back, so you were visiting for the most part your kids at the babysitters. They kind of, from the most part, sort of lived there for all intents and purposes because of how much you were working. So, kind of catch us up a little bit from there on kind of where Patty went.
Yeah, so it was like there's always just the thought of it. It makes me want to cry, but I'll try to brave it off. But um, one time my kids were hungry and I had to put them to bed because I didn't have anything to feed them. So at that moment, I was like, um I need to do better, you know. So like instead of working in that bakery that I was working, because like they were paying me like for it was a minimum wage, right? If he could pay me less,
Hmm.
he would, you know. So like
He's good to give you advice for English, but he's not good for paying you well,
yeah,
right?
so like
Okay.
it's funny because when I wanted to learn how to decorate cakes, I asked them. I was just the person that counted the bread, right? And so he's like, if you want to learn, you have to come on
Hmm.
your day off, and when I can pay you the cakes, when I can sell them, then I'll pay you. And so he paid me the second day.
Hmm.
So and then after he could
Oh,
send
wow.
the decorators to vacation, and then he and I we would decorate the cake. So I learned about cake decorating with him. But I wanted more money, so I asked him like, listen, there's a position at this market, and like um if you pay me this much, I'll stay. And so he was like, no, I can't afford that.
Hmm.
And so I moved, and so I started working the market, and then it had benefits, and then I was able to make more money, and then I didn't have to work in my second job. Plus, in my second job, I met my second husband, and so it was easier now with somebody who was responsible, and it was easier for me, right? Even though it took us like 2 years to live together, but life got easier because I wasn't alone anymore, you know, and like he would understand, and
Hmm.
he loved the kids and everything. So it was, and then the thing that I didn't know is just that when I would get a job, I was just like, I wanted to learn more about cake decorating and all that stuff. So whenever I would see a bakery that make cakes different than the ones that I knew, I would ask the job, I would get the job, and then I would work there. And then I kept moving from bakery
Hmm.
to bakery, you know, after a year or 2 years, whatever. But I learned a lot about cake decorating. And so my kids were growing up, and when they were teenagers, I felt like I was the holidays. When you're a cake creator, you're always working on the holidays, and that's when you work the
Hmm.
most, you know, overtime and all that stuff. So I didn't want my
Hmm.
kids on the weekends to be by themselves because I wanted to be there because it's pivotal when they're teenagers, right? So I was like, I looked for a job in a cafeteria in LAUSD, and it was Monday through Friday. It was just 20 hours, but I was like, I'm gonna be home on the weekend, you know. So like, I got it,
Hmm.
and that wasn't enough money, so I started um, teaching cake decorating classes in an adult school.
Hmm.
So, but I was there on the weekends, which is what I wanted, you know. And then so I
Sure.
was like, I wanted to get a job where it was because that was just part time, and I wanted a job that it was more full time. And so I kept looking
Hmm.
in cafeterias since now I could do this type of job. You know, I applied for the manager job and I got it, but they were just it was at the point where they were just looking for a school to place me. But then I got the job at
Hmm.
UCLA, so I was working at the Early Care and Education Center, and so I was basically an assistant to the chef. We were cooking for kids, and then
Hmm.
I I didn't like my boss. He was homophobic. He was racist. He was very deeply religious when everything was wrong except him, you know. And so the energy when you're working with someone like that, like just him and I, it's not like a lot of people where like you can get distracted or whatever, but like you're cutting vegetables and then he's
Hmm.
telling you about, you know, stuff that you don't agree with, and it eats at you, you know, because like I'm this positive person that I love
Oh.
everyone and I learn from everyone, and this person who's like so close minded, it was eating at me, you know. It was like I was, even though I loved the job and the kids and everything, the benefits were great. It was eating at me. And so one time, um, in that place, the students from UCLA, they were able to work there, taking care of the kids and stuff like that. So like they'll get the milk and you know, And so one of the kids told me
Mm-hmm.
like, "We're looking for a chef. So if you know anybody," and I was like, "What do you mean you're looking for a chef?" It was like, "Yeah, I live in a fraternity, and so we're looking for a chef to cook for us." And I was like, "How much do you pay?" And it was more than UCLA, but no benefits. So I was like,
Yeah.
"Okay." So he's like, "Okay, oh, I'll take you there." And so um, we went, a few days later, and I went to see it, and the food was so awful. It was like some kind of beef with like gravy from the bag. And then
Oh
the
no.
rice they had made kind of like a cave because it was like toasty on top, and so they will get like with a
Cave of
spoon they will try
rice.
to get the soft rice, and then the piece
Like mix it up with the stuff on the top that had gotten hard, or yeah,
the rice is not supposed to have a crunchy top. And then
no, it is not
the
panko
veggies
bread.
were the carrots were so white because they were so dry, and the peas were shriveled.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, you know what, like prison food is better than this. Like I can do so much better. And not only that, but these kids, they're the future of our country. They don't deserve to be eating like this. And so I said yes. So I left my good job. The job at UCLA is like something that people dream of getting with the benefits, and like it's very it's not easy to get a job like
Sure.
that. And I left. I didn't care because it was eating at me. It was like I don't care about the money and the benefits. I care about my peace and my soul. And
Mm-hmm.
so I started working the fraternity, and like to this day, I guess is like the best job ever. I love working there. I developed my skills because I wasn't a chef. And it was basically here's the money, buy whatever you want, cook whatever you want. We just need this amount, served at this time.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have a schedule. You can come get here anytime. You can leave whenever you're done, and weekends off, holidays off, paid. And then on the summer, I will get unemployment.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, I didn't have to work. It was paid vacation, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of the year, I would work only 8 months, and I will have 4 months off with all the vacation from the summer
Mm-hmm.
and December and spring break, right? And so I
Mm-hmm.
kept working there, and it was just so liberating for me to you can cook whatever you want. You see something on TV, I'll make that. And at that house, they didn't have a budget, but I was really good at like um, staying on the cheap. And so I developed
Mm-hmm.
my skills because I had no boss. My bosses were the kids. And so every quarter, there's
Mm-hmm.
new kids, and they're younger and younger. So like basically I could do whatever I wanted, and then I would actually tell them what to do, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
I that was the job that I really loved. But then what happened in that house was that they lost money because of bad finance decisions. So I had to close the kitchen that was still closed, and so I moved to another company, and then I worked in two other fraternities, and and so it was it was so great. But I was living in Inglewood. But at this point, I'm living by myself. I got separated, and
Mm-hmm.
at this point, I'm living. I've been 7 years living by myself, right? So I was living in Inglewood, and from Inglewood, which is still the west side, to get to UCLA is 13
Mm-hmm.
miles driving. It would take me like approximately 3 hours every day just commuting. And so it was eating at me. It was even imagine having a job that you love, working with people you care about, making the best food you can make, nutritious, and like sometimes spoil them. Like I would do whatever, and still feeling like this stress that you can get rid of because no
Mm-hmm.
matter how early you wake up, it's still you don't move, right? And so you're always stuck. Like you can get to the store without being stuck on something, And it
Hmm.
was just eating at me. And so I was like, we're not meant to be stuck in a car for so many hours a day, For 13 miles, it was ridiculous. So what I would do is that I would just stay at work, waiting for the traffic to die down. So like it would take me 15, 20 minutes to get home.
Hmm.
But I was just tired, you know? It was mentally tired. It was physically tiring. Like just being in the car, stuck there, or like even at work, even though you're not actually working, you're just there, you still work, you're still taking care of things or like doing prep
Hmm.
or my work. It will take me maybe 4 or 5 hours. 5 hours, I'm saying like a lot of work, but it was mostly 3 4 hours of actual work. So that's why I was able to make
Hmm.
my own recipes and like put the stories and all, because I had a lot of free time, because I'm really fast and efficient, and um so, but I would still spend like maybe 10, 12 hours at work, which they were completely unnecessary, But I was just trying to avoid traffic. And so it got to the point where, like, I would come here to New Mexico every year since one day in 2015, I was like, I want a road trip. And so I started a road trip, and like, it's funny because I met this group of people that were fans of this podcast, right? And so you will meet on Facebook, and then we'll make a Facebook group, right? And so we're really good friends.
To be fair, not this podcast, although they can be friends of
Yeah,
this podcast. This is
right.
another
An
podcast
older
that I was
one.
talking about.
And so we were fans of the
Mm.
podcast, and I I said, you know what? I'm going on a road trip, and so like everybody started texting, messaging me, and like, you can stay with me, or you can stay with me. Oh, okay. So since I was off the summer, I was like, okay. I was going to take 2 weeks. I ended up like 6 weeks on the road and staying with people the whole time. I think stayed 3 nights in hotels. Like maybe when in Idaho, because there's nothing in Idaho. It was like
Potatoes.
there's like the waterfalls and like Twin Peaks or something, and then that was it.
Mm.
And so, um, but I stayed in like even right here in San Luis Obispo with someone, and then Sacramento and San Francisco, and like I was staying with a lot of friends,
Mm.
right? And so I went from LA all the
Mm.
way to Seattle, and then down through Idaho, and then Utah, Colorado, New Mexico, and Arizona, and back to LA, right? Out of all the states, I fell in love with New Mexico. It was like the Mexico that I grew up in the 80s. The people are so family oriented. They're like so um
Mm.
nobody was on their phones, and so that was a cultural shock. They didn't care about what you were wearing. They would speak wonders about the food as if it was like this big. In New Mexican food is very simple, right? And it like everybody spoke about it with such pride, you know. And so I was like, I need to learn because it looks Mexican, but it's New Mexican. And so I was like, you know what? Next summer, I'm moving to New Mexico. And so in 2016, that summer, when I was off from the fraternity, I packed my house and I put it in storage, and I just drove to New Mexico in my car. I didn't know where I was going to stay. And then I stayed at Motel 6. And then I got there on a Friday. And then on Saturday, I was just like trying to get the area. On Sunday morning, I get breakfast at a restaurant. They gave me the job. I started on Monday. And
That's
okay.
cool.
And then I went back to the year before in the summer. I was at the restaurant called Rancho de Chimayo. They have won the James Beard Award for traditional restaurant. And so
Hmm.
um, I because I would work Monday through Friday. Because since I was the slowest cook, they don't want you there on the weekends when it's busy, right? So I was working Monday through Friday. So on the weekend, I would just drive and try to get the whole state. So I went back to Rancho de Chimay and I told them my story. I just packed my house and I wanted to learn how to cook New Mexican food. And she's like, "Well, you can work here if you want." I was like, "Really?" Yeah. Of course, like this James Beard winning restaurant wants me to work for them, and so I was like, my mind was blown, right?
Cool.
And so I was like, okay, so I'm working mornings over there. I can work in the evening, so they give me a job for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And so on the weekends, I was working this two restaurants, and then on the weekends I would just road trip. And so I met the whole. I went through the whole state, and I fell in love with. Like the people are the
Mm-hmm.
same all over. They're humble, nice people. That one time I was in Santa Fe, and so I was like, "Do you know where this is?" Because like I can find it. Like I have the address here, but like keep sending me, like some streets that don't match the Google Maps thing. And so he was like, "Oh yeah, sure, follow me." And he got into the car and he told me to follow him, and I just couldn't believe it. And so I was like, "Bye." And then I rented a little adobe house in Santa Fe. And then every
Mm-hmm.
morning I would go out, and the neighbors were people I've never met. Even when I left, I never met them. Okay, but every morning they would say, "Bye, neighbor. Have a good day at work." And I was like, "You don't know me? Why are you saying hi to me? Like, stop talking to me." And but that,
This is just because you came from Mexico and your first exposure to the States was LA. And I like LA for what it is, but being friendly to people you don't know
right,
isn't real high on most people
right.
at LA's
And like
priority list, right?
it was nice and everything, but I always felt like I never belonged because I never care about brands. For example,
Mm-hmm.
and like I would go to Goodwill and get clothes, or like kitchen stuff, and like I don't know, there was always
Sure.
something about like I got the best this, I got the best of that, and like it's not about there's like the culture is about who has more, or and stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that. So and then and being getting a little bit more personal, the men were always like you would see them like, "Oh, I watched I on Netflix, I watched this series in the weekend," and I was like, okay. But in here, it's funny because like you ask someone like, "Oh, so what do you do the weekend?" "Oh, like I fix the fence," or like, "Oh, I use the weed eater to cut the weeds," and like I change the oil of my car, and
Mm-hmm.
so I'm like men doing manly things, and so like it's in LA is
Okay.
different. You don't see that. Like you need to change the oil, then you go to Jiffy Lube,
Mm-hmm.
And so if you have a problem with the plumbing, then you just call a service, And in here, like
Mm-hmm.
everyone, like all the men, they're just doing what they're supposed to do, like as men, like in my mind. And so I'm like, okay, so I have hope
Mm-hmm.
yet. I was like, I feel like I have choices again.
So, so let me play catch up. So Patty's talking about New Mexico because very recently she actually made the decision to effectively permanently move to New Mexico and make this her new life. And so that is one thing I really do want to kind of shine a spotlight on here is the thought of like not so much. I think you've done an amazing job of telling us what it was about New Mexico that made you interested. I've been to a lot of really cool places, but I haven't quite gotten the gumption yet to like pack my whole family up like the Clampets from the TV show and like move there. So what did it take in your mind? Maybe is I guess a good question to say, I'm just done. I'm done with this culture or this community or this town or this city, or whatever, and I want to move to something that is, let's just be clear, radically different than Inglewood, right? Like I've been to Inglewood. It is very, very different in New Mexico, anywhere in New Mexico than Inglewood. So, what did it take in your head to kind of just be the thing that kicked you over the goal line, if you
Because I felt I like I live by myself, but I'm never lonely, right?
Mhm.
I am seldom
Mhm.
lonely because it happens. I have my moments, but I enjoy being by myself, right? And so
Mhm.
it was getting to a place where like um I was swimming in place. I felt like I was working and working my ass off, and not getting not one. I wasn't able to buy stuff or to go places or like to work on my
Mhm.
content because I was exhausted. And even though I have like my job will be like very little hours, to be stuck in traffic for so long, I was just like, and at the apartment that I could afford, it was very tiny and didn't have a kitchen. So the kitchen, it was just a stove and a sink,
Mhm.
and that's it. I just had a table on the side, but it's not something that you want record videos in, because like if you put up the lights and the
Mhm.
tripod, then you run out of space. And so I'm making something, and then I'm getting extra dishes and there's nowhere to put them, so like I put them on the floor, and it was just so stressful, like incredibly frustrated, because I know I can do better and I couldn't. I was like just swimming in place, and like I'm not going anywhere. And so I like my mission was a kitchen. I just want a kitchen. I'm a chef. I deserve a kitchen, right? In
Mhm.
LA, I couldn't afford it, even though I made good money. Um, I just couldn't, and I didn't have time, because when I would get home, I was just tired of being in traffic. It's tiring being in traffic. You don't know, if like every day for so many hours, it just eats at you. So I was like, my mission is just to get a kitchen, and I can afford a kitchen in LA. So I talked to my supervisor, and she's like,
Mhm.
"Okay, we have a fraternity in Arizona." And so I was like, oh, so I was toying with I can, the the company had fraternities all over the country. So I basically could go anywhere. They will pay for my plane ticket and my hotel while I rented something.
Mhm.
So it's just a fantastic company. But I was like, okay, so Arizona, I have friends there, and I wanted to be close to the border. And so I was thinking Tucson, so I was like, okay. And then I came here for vacation for spring break in New Mexico. And so my friend said,
Mhm.
so what are your plans? And so I was like, I told her that I took something. And so she was like, oh, okay, well, that's good. I was, yeah. She was like, cause she's always like, you can record your videos here, because she just bought a brand new house. And I was like, Mom, she's not my mom, but
Mhm.
she's kind of like my adopted mom.
Sure. I get
And
it.
so she's
Yeah,
like,
sure.
you can use my kitchen. And I was like, Ma, like I have, you think it's just cooking, but it's not. It's like the tripods, the lights, and then like, and then I can't record while there's people around me. I just can't. I'm not at that level.
Mhm.
And so she was like, well, I have a house that you can use, but it's in the middle of nowhere, and like nobody lives there. Nobody wants to live there because it's so far away. And so I was like, you can live there. And so I was like, okay. He was like, yeah, you can go tomorrow and check it out. So it's a huge ranch in the middle of nowhere. Everything is here. It has all the furniture. It's as if people were abducted by aliens, right? Because it has all the beds. The closets are full. The closets are full of clothes. All the drawers in the bathroom. They still have shampoo and stuff.
Mhm.
So it was basically that. Um, and so I was like, am I dreaming here? Like why doesn't nobody wants to live here? It was like, because it's so far away. And so I was like, if I can make content online, all I need is Wi-Fi. I don't need to drive anywhere. And so I was like, I'm gonna do it. I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna leave everything behind, and I'm gonna move here. And so I was like, and people tell me like, are you sure? It was like, you're crazy. And so I was like, why not? Like um so I didn't even analyze it properly, because making money online, it takes a long while. For if you start maybe a year later,
Mhm.
you start maybe seeing a little bit of profit, you know. But I was like, I can work at the restaurant, which is an hour away. And so she was like, if you commute, you know, it's an hour away. So like, I don't know if you want to do that. And I was like, I was commuting for 3 hours, and like, you feel like you're not moving. So this is like a wonderful, beautiful drive. That like sometimes I just drive it just because, you know, because it's so beautiful.
Mhm.
And so I was like, you know what?
So
Yeah.
I want to point out something. So hang on. So when you first got there and you were so excited, and I want to tell this story because I think it's really significant of what you just said about having a kitchen. The first photo you sent me was of that old cook stove that's sitting right in the middle of the kitchen, like the old stovepipe with the wood tray at the bottom. And those of you who know, I love to smoke meat, and I love to do stupid things with animal parts on a grill. So Patty knows what's in my head, but she immediately sends me this picture. She's like, check this thing out. This is an old enameled of like an old enameled stove with like the range tops. And so it immediately hit me. I was like, how just earthy and homey and really perfect this sort of a juxtaposition. And I want to get into your YouTube or your Instagram and your YouTube really quickly here in a minute, but I don't want to cut you off from the story. So yeah, so you went out, you love it. You get to race pronghorn antelope up and down the road, going to and from work. Now, what are you doing as far as work in New
So
Mexico now?
what happened is that once I actually packed my house, and some of it is still in storage, I have
Mm-hmm.
to go pick it up. But I just packed my stuff in, like my mostly my kitchen stuff, you know. And so I got here, and like, for the people that don't know, it's the ranch is kind of like a mix of the old school, you know, and there's that, like, actual antiquities. The stove that he's talking about is a wood stove, and it has like a container where you put the wood, and then so you cook in there, and then it has a regular stove, right? But the most amazing thing that this
Mm-hmm.
thing has is that everything that is made out of wood was made by one person. He was a wood artisan, you know. So like you can
Wow.
see the
Mm-hmm.
all the wooden panels for the lights, the doors. They're like
Mm-hmm.
specially made, and absolutely everything. So this table
Wow.
that was exclusively made for this house by this guy to make flour tortillas. How like full circle is that? It's,
Oh wow. I didn't God didn't know that. So like that's like some coming
and
back
then
around butterflies
and
and doves
so
and stuff
the
kind of a
the
thing.
the,
Yeah.
the it's a double um table, and then it has like breaks in the bottom where like you close it, and then the
Mm-hmm.
wheels, they go up, because the wheels are for you to move it close to the stove where you're making the tortillas, so you're like right there cooking them.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was just this, like, I just wanted to cook in it, and so I have done sopapillas, and I have done empanadas, and I have done flour tortillas. I have done like a bunch of stuff that it just makes me feel close to my mom for some reason, and my grandma, you know. And so, actually, something I did yesterday, like, try to comprehend like the bigness of this, right? So I was talking to my friend the day before, and so he said,
Mm-hmm.
on Sunday, he was telling me about his tough childhood. He had it really tough, and it was really sad. And so he was telling me that the only thing that would make him, that he remembers that it was a good thing about his childhood, is coming home when his grandma would call him, and she was making tortillas and the fresh cheese and the beans and the salsa made in the molcajete, you know. And so I was like,
Mm-hmm.
you know what? I'm gonna make him a meal. And so I made the tortillas from scratch. I went on to Santa Fe. He told me that morning, and that night I went to buy the ingredients. I was looking for the nixtamal to make the masa from scratch, but I couldn't find it, so I just had to buy the
Mm-hmm.
powder, you know. But it's close. I
Mm-hmm.
made the salsa in the molcajete that my mom gave me, and and then And then the biggest thing, I made cheese from scratch. And I went to work and I came home, I did the cheese, and while I did everything else, it was cold by the time I got to dinner, you know? And imagine making cheese from
Mm-hmm.
scratch, just out of nowhere. You go to work, I got
Mm-hmm.
here like at 2:30, you know, and I started making it. The cheese was ready
Mm-hmm.
in less than an hour. And so, and then I made the carne asada and the salsa, and then it was such a joy for me. And like, not only that, but I got to his place. He lives in a little trailer, and so he was like, it's really. He was embarrassed because he doesn't have AC and it was hot, and so I was like, don't worry about it. And so I had made everything. I took it ready, and all I did was the tortillas, and I was making them right there, right. And so the beauty about this thing is that I got my steak and then I got the salsa and then I sliced an avocado and I was able to eat my side of the meal, which it was full of soul or whatever, and I was still able
Mm-hmm.
to like not eat the tortillas, and which it would have been
Mm-hmm.
fine to eat, right? Um, but I still didn't. And
Sure.
my joy was that he was and he was so emotional, and so he was like, I can't believe you did all of this. You went all this trouble out of a story that I told you. And so like he told me that was incredible. And like it's just like I think I was enjoying it more than he did because I am a giver, So like this ranch, it has so
Sure.
much history, and then I feel honored of being able to use all these things, like I am eight
Mm-hmm.
minutes away from work because like another thing is that there were no jobs here, right? So I'm in the middle of nowhere. There's no jobs, there's no
Mm-hmm.
restaurants, there's no stores, there's no gas stations. The only thing there's here
Mm-hmm.
is what's it called, a postal office. That's it. And so
Mm-hmm.
um but there's a school. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna apply. There was an opening for a sub cook, and so I was like, well, like maybe I can work here, maybe three times a month, And so I applied, and so when they saw my qualifications and whatever, they was like, would you mind working more hours? And so I was like, yeah, sure, like maybe they want another day off, so I'll
Mm-hmm.
work one day every week, right, or something. I don't know. Was like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
the position is posted, it's gonna be for 5 days, and then I check and it was cafeteria manager, and I was like, what? And
Oh,
so
wow. Mm-hmm.
it was like now I'm managing the two schools, the cafeterias. I'm ordering the food and I'm training the employees, and like I didn't even know how good I was at this job that I only did for a year one time in my life, like 10 years ago, 12 years ago, because of my I really I have a lot of common sense, and I'm a stickler for the rules, and I'm a hard worker, and like so everything combined, and it is I just see it as a lot of signs that were happening in here, that I would like I belong here, right? Because like how do you get like from a sub cook to like the main person with a great salary and
Mm-hmm.
benefits, in the same schedule basically that I had because it's a school schedule. And not only that, but I
Sure.
used to work Monday through Friday. Now I only work Monday through Thursday, so it's 4 day week. And so
Mm-hmm.
it to me it's just incredible that just taking a leap of faith, And I was like, okay, I just need a kitchen, and now I have like this huge house. It's
Mm-hmm.
6 bedrooms, and like I'm still not quite used to it. So like I still spend most of the time either in the kitchen or like in my room. But when I
Mm-hmm.
got here, there were flowers, all types of flowers, all around the house, and they were all purple, which is my favorite color, which everybody knows. And so I was like, this, not one orange, not one yellow, nothing. They were all lavender, dark purple, and
Purple.
but that was it. And so I was like, is this like a sign or something? I don't know. And then getting the job, and like now I'm there in 8 minutes, and it's absolutely incredible. Plus, I don't.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing because I don't have a schedule. I can get there anytime I want, and I can leave anytime I want as long as I do my job. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's just like I cannot ask for more. And then there's this farmers market every Tuesday, and so I'm getting to know the people. So like the town is not even a town. Like when you look it up on Google, it says a designated place. It's a designated place. It's not even a town. You know, and so
It's like a line, and there's just some dots where the buildings are as you go
yeah.
past the
So like when
line. Yeah.
I went to the farmers market just by chance, and then my neighbor who has a farm
Mm-hmm.
here, she was selling flour, and so I was like, so it was local,
Mm-hmm.
and she's like, she has a place where like the government gave her money to make food, and then the town,
Mm-hmm.
anybody can eat there, and if you just pay $1, a quarter, whatever, you can get a meal.
That's awesome.
So she's
Wow.
in charge of that, and so she's like, we make events like once a month or whatever, and we bring people from outside, but if you will cook for us, we would love that. And so I was like, that was just weird to me so much because I went to the farmers market. And she said like, you can also
Mm-hmm.
do pastries for me if you want. And so I was like, I love making pan dulce. It's like one of my passions. And so like, it's just funny. And then when I was making the cheese, I was like, you know what? If I find a farm that makes milk, then maybe I can make all types of cheeses and
Mm-hmm.
selling them at the farmers market. It's just like the possibilities are endless. And then one other thing that happened when I got here is that we found a puppy in the road, and like maybe that experience is like not worthy of mentioning at this very cool podcast, but it is, and let me tell you why. Because we found a puppy, and then my neighbor, he took pictures and he sent, I don't know who. The thing is that a kid came in a pickup truck, and he was like, "Okay, it's my neighbor, but he's in Santa Fe." And blah, blah, blah. Oh, okay, so he took the puppy, and then so I'm working at this cafeteria, and I see the kid, and I was like, "You're the kid that picked up the puppy a few weeks ago." He was like, "Oh yeah, you're the lady with the red car. Yeah, oh okay, no, yeah, that's cool." And then like 2 days later, the the lady of HR, she's there, and she gave him a kiss, and I was like, "Is that your son?" He was like, "Yeah, I'm the lady with the puppy." It was like, "No way! Oh yeah!" And so like, I'm
Mm-hmm.
part of a community now, which I have never been. So like, I'm working with Judy, which is the cafeteria worker, and in there, and so she's like, "This is her son, this is her daughter, and like this is my grandkid, and like everything is connected, right?" Everybody knows each other, and this sense of community that I have never had before because I lived in a big city. And the community that I had in Mexico
Mm-hmm.
was my family. But here there's no such thing, right? So like um now I'm I have to get ready for the winter. I've never been in a winter where it actually snows, it gets really cold. So like I have multiple
Mm-hmm.
people, them like I'm I can either bring you wood or I can take you to get it. And so like the experience of me like getting wood for the house for the winter because I need to warm it up, right? I don't know how to do that, but I'm going to find out. I can't wait,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
It's got to get you in shape
Yes,
soon. Go to work.
yeah. So like the whole thing has been like I go to work in the morning, and sometimes there's cows, sometimes there's elk. And like yesterday I was in the same spot on Sunday morning. Oh, my friend was telling me that story. And then two wild dogs passed through the window and like right ahead, and they were like those dogs that they compete when they're like in races. So they were, yes. So they were like tall, they were big, and but so thin, and like I thought like they were like the wild dogs from Harry Potter. I was like, they look like a mix between a greyhound and a dementor. I was so scared. I was like, I'm never going to the hammock again, by myself, because I'm gonna get eaten by dogs.
You just saw like a really big
Yes.
chupacabra.
And so, yeah,
So, so, so I do want to jump in here because I want to highlight something really quickly, and I'm sure this has crossed your mind, but I want to make sure that people that listen to this hear this. That there's kind of this full circle of almost building a family
yes,
a second time. You left a community in Mexico that was your family, right? Like it was a community that were around you. And you get on a truck and you go to God knows where into the US and you don't know anybody and you don't speak the language. And I have to believe, and I've had some conversations with some folks in the past that sort of grew up Mexican but US. And so they have that Chicano or the Chicana thing going where like there's not really the I'm Mexican, I'm American, but my family speaks Spanish. They're from Mexico. And there's this sense in talking with them sometimes that like they're a person without a country, right? Like they don't inherently speak English out of the gate. They eat a lot of traditional Mexican foods. They do a lot of things, but when they go visit family in Mexico, the family in Mexico treats them like they're gringos a little bit because they're not Mexican. And so there's this, it's not family in a sense. And I think that even if you're surrounded by people, some are crazy and may kill you in the bathroom, but some are looking out for you and trying to help you. They're doing good things, but you don't feel like family. And by the time that you take this big leap of faith and you go to New Mexico, and the thing that I've really heard from you, and like I said, Patty's on our team, so I talk with her pretty regularly. You're finding a
I
family,
found the family.
like you're building a
Yeah,
family around you. Like it's not family, but it is family. I don't know how to like. I don't. There's probably some word in like German, like a big compound word that I don't know, but there's something meaningful in that, at least to me, from the outside looking in, because you mentioned kind of the full circle with having like the table for making the flour tortillas, right? Like there is an element of like there are symbols, there are signs, and I'm not a big pseudo super spiritual person when I'm connecting all the dots to things. Sometimes things are just coincidental. Like, at the end of the day, I'm way too science grounded to be like, that's not your mom in there that looks like a dove. I'm sorry. Or, like there is a part of me that just wants to be almost standoffish. But the important thing here is what it means to the person that's receiving the message to some degree. It's not about the cynic like me who's on the side who doesn't understand the significance of it. And having that table be in there of all the random things to have been in this old kitchen, in this home custom built house for the one thing that it feels like just from knowing you for the past 7 years, 8 years now, there's been this longing for in you, and that is this connection and this community and this family that you haven't really had. And this is where Tyler doesn't get too weepy eyed too much, but I'm a little misty. Like there is just a moment of like, don't miss that for people that are watching this, just how important sometimes trusting people, taking a step of faith, doing something that is kind of out of your comfort zone by all measures, and just trusting in the goodness of people, that people are actually going to be good and caring and
right. And
interested and curious and whatever else. And that's a
not only
powerful
not
thing.
only that, but like I'm gonna get into the deep stuff right now. But when I was from age 9 to 11 or something like that, I was raped constantly when I was very young, right? So and then people wouldn't believe me, and so I became like a mute. I will barely speak a word, and like now you can get me to shut up, right? But an experience that it was very tragic, and most people, they react differently, and so instead of me being on victim mode, I'm in warrior mode. I take that as like, you know what, you tried to bring me down, but like you couldn't, like, because unstoppable, you know. And then because after that,
Hmm.
my abusive husband, I left, and I started over, and then After that, I lost my kids. They're alive, but I lost them. I don't have them in my life, and so I had to rebuild a new life without the people that you love the most. Because like when a mom died, you mourn and then you move on, right? The pain is always there. You just learn to learn with the pain. When I lost my kids, they want nothing to do with me, right? So it was like, how can I love myself and be this person that I love and that people love, but the people I care about the most, they care nothing about me. And so if it wasn't because if I had killed myself, they would blame themselves for it. And that's something I cannot give to my kids. But I would be gone a long time ago. I would have been gone. I was at my lowest. And I made it. I made it out of that dark cloud with the strength that even my kids said they were not there. They were giving me because I was moving on for them. Because I was like, if there's a place in their heart that they would like to talk to me sometime, I I want to be a person that they're proud of, right? And I was like, okay, so my mom's in school now, so like maybe I should say hi or something. So this is like, if I'm living like an amazing life now with an amazing job, with a brand new family that has adopted me in, you know, and then the workers at the restaurant, like they have embraced me like you have no idea. And now this community that I live in, I have been at the bottom, okay? And so if this is a lesson for anybody that is feeling that they cannot go on, because like also when I was in the pandemic, um, I couldn't work because I'm a food worker, right? And then um, I actually didn't get unemployment. There was a technicality there that it just didn't work out, and so like all the savings that I had, like they were gone. So for some time, I stopped paying rent, and my landlord was wonderful, and he was like, "You can stay here as long as you want, as long as you need." So I stayed, and I was like, somehow I'm going to pay it back, right? And I was so depressed, but I kept going, right? And then when I was desperate, like my ex husband, he wanted to give me money, I wouldn't take it, but at least he would bring me pizza, like the leftovers from the day. And so like it was weird because it was like the weirdest combinations. What are people thinking ordering this, right? So like I was living on leftovers, and I was basically homeless in my own home. And then the people that helped me were you and Luis, which like I'm pretty sure you don't want me to say, but you bailed me out. And so it says a lot about you guys, and like how you have embraced me. Um, and so this is not just a company to work for, but it really is a family. And so like now I belong to different families. And so like if somebody out there that is thinking that, oh, I'm struggling because of this, you know what? Everything is absolutely everything is temporary. Everything. And no matter the pain that you think that it's everything is over, that you're trying to think about killing yourself or ending your life, or like staying in a marriage that it's abusive, whatever your reasoning is for not moving on or being scared, I just want to say that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and it gets better. But you just have to fight like a motherfucker. You have to work, And everything that you put out, it will flower. It's not just the same, because it's not like karma that whatever you put out, you come in. I think it's like when people see the real you and that you have good intentions, that you have good feelings, good vibes and all that stuff, that you're not trying to hurt people. People can um sense you, and they know like this is a good person, we should help her out. Or you will always find someone that's going, like, the world is full of people, and that if you just get out of your bubble, you will find something, if not better, just different. And then whenever you fail, just look at it as a lesson. There's always a lesson to be learned. And so for me, whenever I go through something, I was like, I look for the lesson. Because I was like, I didn't just go through all this shit like just for nothing. So like, I go back and then um, I try to find the lesson and then become a better person. And
I want to interrupt you really quickly because you said something. I don't want to let it go. You said it says something about who we are as people, but it doesn't. It says something about who you
um,
are. I don't get very
I'm sorry.
creative very often. No, you're fine. Listen, y'all. I've known this story about Patty's experience for years. It never gets easier to hear, but in the best of ways, because in a very real sense, if there's anything that can come out of tragedy, anything that can come out of personal loss, it's a stronger or a more resilient person, a better person that can flower or bloom from the ashes of the person that he or she or they were. And honestly, there is a lot of good in the world if you look for it. And I think a lot of good in the world if you put yourself out there as a good person and as a caring person and as a giver, to use your words from earlier. And I don't want people ever to miss the understanding that having a place you can call family, having a group of people that you know you're safe around and that you can be vulnerable around, or people that you can be, honest and transparent with, it's it has the power to restore the things that get taken from us by the bad events and the bad experiences of our life. And seeing that kind of come full circle for you, seeing that come back to a place where you are loved and appreciated for who you are, the weird, eclectic, fun Patty that I've come to know and to love. Like, uh, y'all, like, drive to New Mexico and meet this woman. Like, seriously, she's just an amazing human being. And honestly, Patty, little misty, but like, the truth of the matter is, thank you for being willing to share some of that. I know it's heavy, I know it's difficult, but I think it's a very big part of what has made you who you are at this point. All of the good things that have kind of born out of the bad things or the difficult things that you've endured. And so I apologize for cutting off. I don't want people to miss that. I don't want people to miss that there are people looking for good people. There are people looking to help. There are people willing to support and to help. And because you haven't found them yet doesn't mean that the world is a bad place. It doesn't mean that the world is trying to kick you around or that people all suck or any of these things that your brain wants to tell you when you're in the middle of, Patty, the things you've experienced, like personally, repeatedly. There are bad people in the world, unquestionably. There are good people who do bad things in the world. There are bad people who weirdly do good things sometimes in the world. But the truth is, there are people who want to help and want to support and want to encourage and want to cheer on. And I love seeing when people find their community, Patty. from when I met you, albeit digitally, I've only gotten to hang out with you a couple of times, but like to now, in terms of just the growth that I've seen in you as a person and in your confidence and your assertiveness. The first time that I ever really spent any time talking with you, we were on a conference call or whatever, there might have been 10 words said, and there was just this moment of like, almost like afraid to say the wrong thing, afraid to do the wrong thing, like something bad was going to happen. And I kind of hope that after 6 or 7 years, we've gotten to the point where you can call me an a-hole when I am one, and you know that I'm okay with it. Like it's all good. Um, but the truth of the matter is, y'all, like, this is the kind of stuff that we want to showcase on this show. These are the kind of people whose stories that I want to tell. And I don't want to miss an opportunity to tell people kind of where to connect with you and what you're doing socially. You've mentioned it a couple of times, in terms of like what you're doing with the Instagram and all of that stuff. So keto Mexican recipes. But I know you've kind of got like last time we did a podcast and we talked, there was this big vision. I'm doing these things and I want to work on it. So where is that and where are you going and where can people find you and all of that fun stuff about I want to give back to you. Like I want to figure out a way to help people that watch this to know how to
So
connect with you and to learn from you and to build you up.
my keto Mexican recipes account is being and my website is all being I'm working on it. And all the recipes that I have from my
Mhm,
stories, I'm editing into reels and stuff like that. So I just want to have like a bunch of them, so I'm not rushing to like, oh, it's Monday and tomorrow's Monday and I don't have anything to post. So like I'm making like a little bit of like a mattress, like to fall back on. So I'm
mhm,
working on that, but I want to like make the recipes that my family made that where I grew up. So I'm going to have
mhm,
two channels, because this is the way I eat. I'm keto, and this is for life. It's not a diet. It's just how I choose to eat. Even as a
mhm,
like a powerful meal yesterday, I still chose to eat the way because that's how I eat, right? So it didn't lose any meaning for me, and so
mhm,
like I want to convey that feeling to people that they can get here because like at the beginning when you start keto and you want to get healthy, you see fit people, and then if they seem so far away that you're like, I can never do that, you know so for me it's
mhm,
like I want for people to transition like, oh, I'm gonna do keto for a month, you know and then they go back to the same thing,
mhm,
right?